Alright, hello everyone. It's been a long time since the last video. It's been busy here. As you know, the planet Earth has been hit by a pandemic. Germany was one of the worst countries actually hit by this pandemic. We are relatively lucky that the death rate was quite low, and people were quite careful, so it was not that bad in terms of fatalities. But these days the restrictions are being eased step by step, so we are allowed to go out and do some activities. Today I came to hike in the south of Munich. The name of the place is Bayerisches Zell. It's a very beautiful site. I'm just parked in the car park and I'm charging, so apparently they have free chargers here. There are two of them, and as you can see, it's a sunny, beautiful day. Yeah, quite nice. I have been hiking up in that mountain for about 2 hours. Alright, so in the meantime I will talk a bit about my ownership experience of my Renault Zoe. I have been owning this car for a little bit more than a year. I just recently had my first service. In this 1 year I haven't really driven the car so much, so I don't drive so much, as I live in the city and most of my driving is actually in and around the city. You will see, well, it's really sunny today, so it's hard to see. Let me try to find that menu, how many kilometers. Yeah, so I drove about 8,546 kilometers, so it's not so much, and I wasn't driving the last 2 months because of the lockdown, so usually I drive around 10,000 kilometers. So the car has been quite fantastic actually. I had very few problems with the car in this 1 year. And during the service, what they did is that they just changed the air filter, and that was it. There was no other problems. Oh, okay, there was one problem, but the problem was with my software. Just before I went to the service, my Android Auto started bugging, so I had this problem when I start the map in Android Auto, and the map would just crash like after 10 or 15 minutes, and when you're driving it's a bit tricky because you cannot really restart it because you're driving and you're focusing on the drive. So they fixed it, I guess with some software update or something. There was another problem which was also with the infotainment system. But this is a common known problem. So the car gets disconnected after every 2 months. So what you have to do is that you have to restart the TCU, and the way to restart the TCU is the unit where you have the SIM card, and the way to restart the TCU that I know of is just pulling a fuse. So I didn't know in the beginning, so my app stopped working, and I was not really happy because I am paying for the app support and it wasn't working. So I googled a bit, and then I found out that it's actually quite a common problem in Renault Zoes. So I had to buy a plier. I can show you the plier. So you can plug the fuse out with some pins that they provide you, but it's a bit risky because it cannot hold the fuse quite well. So I bought this thing, and so after every 2 or 3 months I just have to pull the fuse and put the fuse back in, then it's fine. So that's the other problem. Also, there was probably some problems with the steering wheel. So the steering wheel was making some squeaking noise in the winter. So it was only in the winter, and when it was really really cold, like -10 or something like that. So I guess there was some problem with the lubrication or something like that. So during the service they also took care of these. Yeah, so these were all the problems that I had. So I'm quite happy with the car. In 1 year it performed really really well. Maintenance, in terms of maintenance, I had to just pay I think around 120 or something for the service. Yeah, in the winter the car also performed quite well. So when it was really cold, then the heat pump would become a bit noisy. So it almost, from outside, it almost sounds like an ice car, but you cannot really hear it from the inside. Other than that, the range was usually, for me, it was usually 220 kilometers in the winter, and as I said, I don't really drive that much on the highways. So I did a few road trips on the highways in the winter, and I think I could drive about 150 to 180 kilometers. That's about it. There is not much to report. The car has performed fantastically well. It was a great experience, to be honest with you, and yeah, I'm really happy. I can show you from the outside how the car looks like. This is the Bayersdorf train station. Actually, you can come from Munich directly by this train. It takes about an hour. It's also about an hour of drive. I have been hiking right there. See, somewhere there. Yeah, I didn't really go on the top, but halfway probably. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. So there are some people outside hiking around today, walking around, just enjoying the nice weather. Yeah, and this car park can have about, I think it has about 40 spaces, so it's free parking. Even the charging is free. There are only 2 chargers now, so I assume in a year or so there will be more chargers. So Germany is rolling out some regulations which should make it mandatory for these parking spaces to have a certain percentage of electric car chargers. So that's quite nice. So things are moving fast in Germany, and yeah, I have been charging for about an hour and a half. I came here with 30%, and I think I'm almost at 90% right now. So yeah, so as you can see, the car held up quite well in this 1 year. I still have my winter tire. I haven't really had the chance to change yet, but I will next week. So yeah, really happy with the car. The 22 kilowatt charging is a bit of an issue. I am still not really doing many road trips, so yeah, probably because I have 22 kilowatt charging. So the next thing for me would be to upgrade. Yeah, so in Munich there are actually also in and around in Munich there are actually lots of 22 kilowatt chargers, so it's not an issue to drive around within the city or around the city. The problem is when you are doing this sort of trips, then you have to take a break for an hour. So let's get in the car. Let me get rid of my cap. I also had the chance to drive the new version of Renault Zoe, the ZE50 version. So when I gave the car for servicing, they gave me a loaner, a top spec ZE50 as a loaner. The car is actually quite nice. They made some upgrades. So the upgrades are mainly in the interior and the battery. In the interior, I think they really cracked the driving display, the dash behind the steering wheel. It's really clean and nice now, with a nice depth, and all the information is displayed quite nicely and in a clean way, so you can have the consumptions and range, and it shows the battery percentage in the end. And it also has now lane keep assist, and it also shows that in the display. The battery is supposedly 52 kilowatt hour usable. The gross battery size is 55 kilowatt hours, so it's a good size, I think. The range is supposedly, real world range would be 350 to 380. So I think it's a really good range as well. I was really pleasantly surprised by the driving dynamics also. So they adjusted the steering wheel, and it has a nice weight now, and it's thicker, and it's much nicer to hold actually. Also, they got rid of the handbrake. They changed the gear stick. They now have 2 levels of regenerative braking. So the level 0 is basically just very weak regeneration, and there is a B mode. The B mode is stronger than the previous Renault Zoe that I have. So yeah, it's nicer. The materials used in the interior are much nicer actually compared to my Zoe. They also have a really nice infotainment display, so it's a bit Tesla-esque, although they still kept the knobs to adjust your climate control and volumes, etc. Yeah, so there is more space in the interior, or it feels there is more space, and the cubby holes are bigger. So it was quite nice actually to drive around that car for a day. The horsepower is also a bit more, so it was 136, I think, with DC charging. So I was really driving it hard on the motorway. So some of the things that I did not like about the new version is that they still kept the maximum speed 140 kilometers per hour, which is a bit of an issue on the German Autobahn. Yeah, because everyone is driving around 130 to 140 kilometers. So if you have to pass on the highway, it's difficult to manage with Renault Zoe on German highways. Other things, I was really shocked that they did not put adaptive cruise control. So it was for me quite shocking to see that such an advanced car does not have this basic feature that you get with the basic cars now. Even with like cheap Skodas or Kias, you get adaptive cruise controls now, but Renault did not really put adaptive cruise control in one of their most advanced cars. So yeah, that was a bit disappointing. Also, the charging speed is a bit disappointing. I was expecting it to have at least 75 kilowatt speed, maximum speed, but it can go up to 45 to 46 or something like that. So for a battery of 55 kilowatt hour size, it's not really cutting edge. The new cars coming up, like Opel Corsa and Peugeot 208, E208, they have 100 kilowatt charging speeds, and they are actually in the same price range as Renault Zoe. So I don't know actually why Renault decided to keep it 50 kilowatt. So other than that, the car was okay. So it feels more solid now. I guess they improved the build quality. So I'm keeping an eye open in terms of what cars are coming out, and their specs, how things are progressing. My lease is going to be finished in a year, so I have the option to keep this car, but I'm not quite sure because of the 22 kilowatt charging speed. I will need to travel a lot next year in and around Germany, so I might need to get a car with higher charging speed at least. And yeah, I'm looking into many different cars. So the first one is obviously Tesla Model 3. I'm also considering ID3. So in Germany you can get it for, let's say, 8,000 euro, less than the Model 3 base version, the standard range plus version. So that is one of the issues. So still Tesla Model 3 standard range plus is a bit pricey for me. I'm also keeping an eye on the Kia e-Soul and Kia e-Niro. I really like the functionalities of these Kia cars, but the looks of Kia e-Soul is a bit too funky for me, so I might not consider that. e-Niro is okayish, but they increased the prices in Germany, so they are now a bit more expensive actually. If you spec it out, a bit more expensive than the Model 3 standard range plus. So not sure if it makes sense to go for Kia instead of Tesla. I'm also looking into Opel, like I said, the 50 kilowatt hour version, the Corsa version, although I will have to actually go for a bigger car now. So yeah, let's see what happens. There are some new cars coming up as well, the Skoda Enyaq, so I might consider that one as well. Also, the other interesting cars would be the Opel crossover or whatever they're calling it. So there is also ID4. So yeah, that seems like a promising car. I have to see the pricing. What else? Yeah, Opel is also releasing a version of Astra. The Opel Astra will come up sometime in 2021, so it might be too late for me, but yeah, I'll keep an eye open. I am a big fan of Hyundai Ioniq, but the new car has really terrible charging speed, so I am not exactly sure. So I'm waiting if they are actually going to upgrade this charging speed, and it would be also nice to have a little bit bigger battery. So right now it has only 39 kilowatt hour battery. So yeah, that's more or less all the things that I have been up to. So the car held up quite well for the last 1 year. Really happy with the car. I don't really charge it up to 100%. I charge it usually up to 80% daily, and only if I have a long trip then I charge it up to 100%. I don't have a home charger. I have a garage, but the landlords are still not allowing us to install electric vehicle chargers. But this will change at some point, I hope in the next 1 or 2 years. So I usually charge at work. We have about, I think, 30 to 40 charging stations, 11 kilowatt charging stations at the place where I work. I just go to the office, plug it in, and I have to calculate how long I should charge. That's it. Oh, by the way, Renault has a new app. The app is improved a bit. It doesn't have that horrible user interface like it used to have in the previous version. So let me just show you. It's called My Zoe. So you can look now. Yeah, you can see the charging percentage. It updates after every 15 minutes or so. and you can set the charging schedules and stuff like that. You can start preheating or pre-cooling from here as well. You can also see how long it will take to charge it completely. So as you can see, it's still not the best app. You cannot set the charging limit from here. This is a major problem with Renault, or I should say shortcoming of Renault Zoe's. But you can set up the appointments now from the app, so that's nice. Yeah, and some other stuff which is not really interesting, but yeah, this one is the main interesting point. Yeah, so just to check how much you charged and start preheating and pre-cooling, that's nice. So this one now works well, the preheating functionality and pre-cooling functionality, so that's nice. It wasn't so good in the previous app. To set charging limit, you have to still do some manual stuff. For example, you have to calculate how long you have to keep the charging session active. So the way to do it is actually a bit tricky. For example, let's say if you arrive with 60% and you want to charge up to 80%. So what you would do is that you would get the difference. So you have to charge 20%, right? And your total capacity is 41, even though it's not really 41, but let's just keep it simple, 41 kilowatt hour. And for that you have this one, and then just multiply it by 20, so you have to charge about 8.2. So if you are charging in an 11 kilowatt charger, then what you need to do is that you just have to divide this 8.2 by 11 kilowatts, right? So then it's like 0.74, so 0.74 in 60 minutes is 44 minutes. So yeah, so that's how you can figure out how many minutes you need to actually charge. So you go into this menu. Oh, I have to mute it. Yeah, so you go to this charging. Yeah, so here you can basically set when you want to start. So here you can set when you want to start, and here I usually use this one. So here I just set like from when it starts and when it ends, and then it just charges to that level. So it's still a bit clumsy to set charging limits in Renault Zoe. That's one of the major problems or major shortcomings of Renault's. And in the new Renault Zoe, they still haven't fixed it. It's still like that, so you cannot set the charging limit. So that was also disappointing, actually. There was another thing that I did not like about the new ZE50. So when you are charging in Renault Zoe's, it's not possible to turn the climate control on, at least with the full power. So it's really weak, especially in the winter. It's impossible to stay in the car because it's freezing. So you can start the climate control with only preheating or pre-cooling in the summer, and that goes that starts it with the full power. So the only way you can start your climate control is by starting the car, and if you start the car, the charging stops. So this is a problem in Renault Zoe's. In the new car, they did not fix it. So in all other cars like Hyundai or e-Golf, you can get in while it's charging. You can still keep the climate control on and keep the heater on in the car. And in some cars, they are quite clever. They draw the power actually not from the battery when it's charging. They draw the power from the charging station. So Renault is still not really doing this sort of thing. So what I saw in the new car is that the changes, the upgrades were just in the interior and some upgrades in the exteriors. Like they try to make it look a bit more masculine from the front and they fitted LED lights. Now LEDs are standard and the lights are a bit more wider and stuff like that. So yeah, so mostly superficial changes. So in terms of the drivetrain and the basic EV functionalities, they haven't really done much other than just including the 50 kilowatt charger, the DC charger. So yeah, anyway, I'm rambling a lot. So yeah, so that's more or less the update from me. Yeah. Oh, okay. So let me also talk about what's coming up in the channel. So as you see, so it's not so easy for me to manage time to upload videos. So I will try to upload one video per month, if that makes sense. I will make a video about the basics of the electric cars from the user's point of view. Basically, I will start with driving an electric car, what it's like to drive, what are the good things about electric cars, what are the bad things about electric car, what you should do, you should not do. Then I will also talk about batteries, so how you can take care of the battery, why batteries are performing quite well when it's summer, and why in the cold weather the batteries are not really performing that well, why we should charge up to 80% on a daily basis, and why we should not drain the battery completely. So this kind of thing. So how can you maintain a battery, how to take care of it, what it means when you charge up to 100%, what it means when you charge up to 80%, these kind of things. Yeah, and also I will talk about range, the most talked about topic when it comes to EVs. So how can you actually accurately predict your range? So the range is different when you drive on the highways and when you drive in the cities, and you need to be able to actually have some sort of idea about the consumption and what the range will be. Yeah, and also just basic charging topics, like what should be your daily charging habits, what do you do when you don't have a home charger, is it good to charge all the time on fast chargers, or is it not, these kind of things. Yeah, and some other things, for example, the EV modcon features. For instance, when you want to do a long trip, most EVs in the market right now, they don't have really a navigation system which actually shows you when to stop, where to stop, and how long to charge. So only Tesla and some other cars can do that. So you have to use some third-party softwares, like a better route planner or things like that. So I will talk about these things. Also, just basic car stuff like maintenance costs and prices of the cars in different segments and things like that. So I'll try to make first one video with all these topics, which will cover them on a higher level, and then I will break down these different topics and go more in depth for each of these topics. Yeah, so that's the plan. So I hope I can do that in the next month. So I will upload this video in sometime in May, and then the next video will come, let's say, sometimes in the last week of June. Yeah, I have to do some research and put together the video and things like that, and then that will be followed by I guess 3 or 4 more videos, mainly about battery technologies and charging and things like that. So yeah, so thank you all for watching. If you like the video, if you want to see more content in this channel, please hit subscribe and like the video. So I will see you in the next video. Ciao.